Drifting slightly away from their usual tradition, Apple officially unveiled the iPhone 16, iPhone 16 Plus on Monday. These are the latest additions to the iconic smartphone lineup. Crores of people usually tune in worldwide to ensure and find out what Apple has now brought into the world. The overall design appears to remain familiar. New models introduce subtle tweaks. We are told improved camera capabilities, which has been a strength and USP for Apple. But also there's the promise of Apple Intelligence in a software update that will soon happen. This Apple AI, Apple Artificial Intelligence, can analyze inbox, provide email summaries, modify notifications. So a lot is expected to be happening there as well. Now, the iPhone 16 and iPhone 16 Plus starts at about 80,000, 90,000, and Pro 128 GB could go up to 1,19,900 rupees. Remember, depending on the GB variant, the price is going to also fluctuate as well. We are told that 256 GB variant is priced at about 1,44,900 and so on and so forth. So there have been, of course, a lot of fresh details that have come in as well about what they are intending to do. Now, of course, India today, as always, tracking very closely what's unfolding at the event there. Ayush Ailavadi joins me right now. Ayush, good morning. You tell me, what do you think are the changes? Because one, they've drifted slightly away from tradition. Usually it's at the end of the week, isn't it, that they have these events. Apple 16, Apple 16 Max, what are the differences and what are the changes that we can expect this time?
You know, it's like the interesting proverb, same, but different. On the outside, it might appear that some of these devices look the same. But what's really a central theme across the lineup is Apple Intelligence, like you rightly explained. Now, what's interesting to see is that you have an iPhone 16 and a 16 Plus with a largely improved camera, with also, of course, an A18 chip that's 2 generations ahead. And then you also have this new camera control, which is a capacitive touch slider, which is now across all 4 iPhones, even the Pro models, which makes it like a pro camera in a lot of ways, right? You can double tap that and you get a bunch of features. You know, we'll play out the visuals in a bit. I've had an exclusive hands-on with all 4 devices. It's not just these devices. There's the Pro and Pro Max, of course. That is where the magic happens. Apple Intelligence can do all sorts of things, really, when you talk about how it's woven across the ecosystem. That's Apple's version of AI. You said you can summarize notes, you can write to your boss in a more professional tone. All of this would not require you to go to another third-party app. This can all be done on the device in a much more secure way. Apple's promises that they use private cloud relay. What is this technology? This technology is essentially Apple's way of saying that they do not store your data, they do not share your data, and it's up for review. If anyone wants to really test this claim, they're happy to essentially let that happen. So that is what is really unique in terms of Apple Intelligence. All the cool gimmicky stuff aside, the fact that your interaction with artificial intelligence, which scares a lot of people that watch our shows as well, is AI taking over? It's about embracing AI. And if you can embrace AI like they say for the rest of us, I'm actually right in front of Apple Park. That's where the Steve Jobs Theater is. That's where we were doing our hands-on experience. And the mood over here is that if you can really intersperse and ingrain AI across all your devices, it makes your life easier, and that's what we've seen. It's not just that, it's also a big focus on health. Now the Apple Watch, apart from the ECG, atrial fibrillation, all those medical health and fitness features, which were always there, you also now have the ability to diagnose and understand sleep apnea, which is a big deal. You also have hearing aids in Airpods, the ones I'm using right now, the next generations out there. So you're seeing a big focus on health, a big focus on AI, and you're seeing all of this coming together in the brand new devices.
It's quite fascinating to, to put this vision into play as well. And we'll wait for the reviews as well, Ayush, from you. But stay on, because Ayush is right there at the event in the USA, and he's tracking all the latest coming in from the Apple Park. Let's listen in to Tim Cook about what he said during the introduction. Stay on with me, Ayush. I'm coming back to you.
Every year, we add features and capabilities that not long ago would have seemed impossible to fit into a single device, let alone one small enough to wear on your wrist. Today, we're building on the advanced technologies pioneered with Apple Watch to make it even more useful, essential, and intelligent. And we're doing it all in this beautiful new design.
So I return to Ayush now, who's tracking all the latest. So Ayush, clearly it looks like you've got a hand on these devices as well. I have two questions here, because I'm also very curious to find out more about this Apple intelligence, so to say. What has made Tim Cook and Apple come out with this? What do you think is going to be different than the usual AI that we talk about? And why do you think people will opt for specifically an Apple with the AI in it? And two, okay, let's first discuss the intelligence aspect, then I'll come back to you for the next question.
Yeah, clearly a lot of questions, and as excited as you are asking those questions, I am in answering them. The sun's setting here, but metaphorically speaking, it's really sunrise for Apple in the artificial intelligence space. Not too far away from where I'm sat here in Cupertino is Mountain View, where Google and the Pixel team are working on Gemini. And then, of course, not too far away from there in San Francisco, you have OpenAI. Now, what's unique about Apple's vision with Apple Intelligence is they call it artificial intelligence for the rest of us. There are 1 billion plus iPhones. They want to make it easy and seamless. The one thing that Apple gets right, and often they are criticized for coming too late to the party, is that they make it easy. If you want to explain this feature to your grandmother, to someone who's averse to technology, Apple makes it a lot easier. And that's how they've done it. So I'll give you an example. If you want to use Apple Intelligence on your Notes app or in your email, and you're sending a letter to one of our bosses, and there is a purple and a blue dot out there. Now, when you click that, seamlessly everything magically gets highlighted in that note, and you get a bunch of drop-down options. Do you want to make it more formal? Do you want to make it more personal? So, that becomes very easy. It's almost like, AI for dummies, so to speak. Now, that's the first thing. The second thing, like I told you, is about security. The one concern is that there's so much data that these big tech companies are gathering about us, are assimilating and analyzing about us. How do you know that that data is safe? It's my data. It's a world where you want to be sure that that data is not misused. The promise that Apple has, and something that they've done over the years, is a focus on privacy and security. So it goes into a private cloud relay. And I'll explain a little technicality of it also in terms of why I think it's fascinating. That data is not stored, not shared with Apple. Even when you use ChatGPT, and a company like Apple, which has been criticized all along for being a closed ecosystem, has now opened Apple Intelligence, saying, if you don't want to use all our on-device features, on-device essentially means all of this is happening without any internet connection. If you want to use the internet connection and use more complex tasks, which maybe we can't do at this point because we're young and new to the party, you can use ChatGPT. But even there, you'll get a prompt saying, this is the safest way to use ChatGPT, but you are now using another company's services. So that is a very interesting approach that a company like Apple, which wanted to be and keep you immersed within one ecosystem, is open to using a competitor, OpenAI's large language learning models, is open to using Google's Gemini. And I think that is fascinating, and why I think they have one step ahead after this launch in the artificial intelligence race.
Very fascinating. Putting all of this, I have to say that I do feel that sense of missing out now. I'm an Android user, but nevertheless, can this AI possibly have me switch to iPhones and Apple products? Ayush, stay on with me, because Ayush is right there on the ground, and he has sent us this ground report. He's basically explaining to us about the iPhone 16, the Pro Max features as well. Let's take a look at that report.
We have the new iPhone 16 and the iPhone 16 Plus. This one is 6.1 inches, this one 6.7 inches. Hugely popular back home in India. And this is in the new ultramarine color. I must say it is an eye-catcher. But the good news is, if you're asking me about upgrading your iPhone 14 or even 15, then this is it. It now jumps a couple of generations with a chipset with A18 on it. And that means it comes with Apple Intelligence. Much better battery life, of course, because you couple that new Apple Silicon along with iOS 18 and you have these new iPhone 16s built from the ground up with Apple Intelligence. Now, even some of those features, so I'm just going to use one of them right now. This one's obviously a lot more pocketable if you're holding it in your hand. If you just use the 16 Plus, which I think is the ideal size to really use, you now have camera control on this as well. So it's not just a Pro feature. You could do a slight double tap over here, change the camera styles. You've got to be a little delicate with it. And then you can do all sorts of things over here as well, right? Now, that is, of course, what I showed you with the Pro and Pro Max. But what if you want to use Apple Intelligence? You want to use it perhaps in your notes. You want to use it to erase an object from a photo. All of that can now happen on the base iPhone 16 and 16 Plus as well. So I think this and this, when the you'll see the India pricing out, and you'll realize that these are great options. The camera positioning, the module looks different now, so you can, from a distance, you can actually tell that these are new iPhones, and I think that's the real beauty with them. Of course, you can take great macro shots because now on the ultra-wide sensor, you'd also have that ability on the iPhone 16. So much improved on the camera front, much improved, of course, with Apple Silicon with A18, and then all those features from Apple Intelligence coming to this particular device. Now, if you go, for instance, into the Notes app, and we've got, well, a note right here. How does Apple Intelligence work? If you select all of it, this is the Glow Time logo that you're looking for. Click on it right here, and you've got proofreading, you've got rewriting, you can make it more professional, you can make it more friendly, you can make it more romantic, all sorts of things. That's how Apple Intelligence will work. Now, we've seen a lot of other manufacturers trying out AI and really experimenting with it. But Apple's done it differently, and this is how you can really see the proof is in the pudding, because this is now just seamlessly integrated across the Notes app, across the Messages app, across the Mail app. You see all these features now. AI for the rest of us is coming true on the iPhone 16 Plus and the iPhone 16. I know it's a little chaotic over here, but these are going to be very interesting products to review when we get back to the Tech Today studio. Your first look at the iPhone 16 and the iPhone 16 Plus. And if you want the absolute Top Gun, there is the iPhone 16 Pro Max here in the flesh. Now, yes, just like the iPhone 16 Pro, this comes with the new A18 Pro chipset. And if you think that it looks similar to the previous Pro that I'm actually shooting this on, then let me correct you. The real magic is under the hood, and when you're using this device, it's the best battery on an iPhone. It's one of the fastest iPhones ever, but most importantly, Apple Intelligence is here. Even if you want to edit a video right here, you can go into the Photos app, go to 20%, 24 FPS, all the way up to 120 FPS, 4K 120 FPS in cinematic. This is a phone which is amazing for all of our shows, but you can also use it for high-end cinema and films as well. But that's not all, right? If you're using the camera app, and I think all the real changes have really come to the camera app. The real core of all of this has come to the camera app with this button, the camera control button, with this capacitive slider. This is the ingenuity this year on display in the Pro lineup. Now, one big thing that I must mention is that the Pro and the Pro Max are absolutely identical. It's only the screen sizes and battery that changes a little bit. This is a 6.9-inch screen, the biggest screen that you will see on an iPhone.
And of course, as always, when there is an Apple event and these new launches, there is as much talk about the features as it is about the price as well. And therefore, we have the confirmation now here in India. If you intend to buy the Apple iPhones, look closely on your screen. Here's what you can expect to shell out from your pocket. So iPhone 16 is going to be at about 80,000 rupees, 79,900 specifically. iPhone 16 Plus will start at about 89,000 rupees, is 89,900 rupees approximately. This will be the Plus version. And then comes in the variants with regard to the GB. So in India, the iPhone 16 Pro 128 GB variant, if you want to buy, will be 1,19,900 rupees. iPhone 16 Pro Max 256 GB variant is priced at about 1,44,900 rupees. Now, if you're thinking that this is expensive or this is a high price, there is actually a notable decrease from last year's iPhone 15 Pro prices, because at that time, remember, it was launched at 1,34,990 and iPhone 15 Pro Max was 1,56,990. So there's actually been a notable decrease in it as well. And Ayush continues to be with us. Ayush, I find it very interesting. I don't think this has happened previously, that there has been a new launch, but with a notable decrease. Do you think it has something to do about assembling and manufacturing here in India? What do you think that could be a reason about?
Look, I think that's our best bet. And I think that's a great statement to make for Make in India. If the iPhone Pro lineup is now 15,000 rupees cheaper with all those Pro features, I think it's also well timed with the fact that they are being made in India. And those made in India iPhones, mind you, are not just being sold in India. You're going to be seeing them all across the world with that Make in India badging. So it's a very proud moment for Make in India.
Nice.
And we can only hope that that cost comes down. Obviously, with the tax and duty structure, it's not going to be as inexpensive as buying it here. I'm sitting in front of an Apple store, and I'm sure it'll be much more reasonable to buy it from here or even in Dubai. But if you're buying it in India, it is definitely cheaper. But I must say that just one thing, before we do wrap up, that everyone asks me every year, should I upgrade to the new iPhone? This time it has become sort of non-negotiable. And I'll tell you why I say that. Because usually when you're investing in something like this in India, we don't buy these bundles, right? We buy an unlocked iPhone. It's a lot of money. It's more than 80, it starts at 80,000 rupees. The only way you can justify it is every 3 years. So in tech, we call it a 3-year upgrade cycle. This time with Apple, with the iPhone, it's changed. If you bought the iPhone 14 or anything before that, and if you want to leverage the features that come with Apple Intelligence, then you have to change. Whether you want to buy the cheapest 16 or you want to go all the way up to the 16 Pro Max, you have to change to get those Apple Intelligence features. And this is, the sales strategy that they will be deploying. And you'll notice that a lot of creators and people who make content like us, especially in India, and I'm seeing a lot of them over here as well, are all using the Pro Max model. But this time around, while the pricing has come down in India, the Pro and Pro Max usually have a little bit of a difference. There's no difference in the 16 Pro and 16 Pro Max, like I was saying earlier. It is only a difference of screen size and obviously corresponding battery. Features-wise, it's exactly the same. So you pick your favorite iPhone.
Ayush, tell me this, that for people worldwide, they usually watch the live stream on the Apple website, on YouTube. You are there on the ground in person. What is the mood like? What is the sentiment like? And for you to know that you're holding possibly that first version, and for Apple enthusiasts, it could be a big thing. And added on to that, because you're in California, because you're on the ground, do you have a list of demands from people known to you? Buy me these iPhones and I'll compensate you later.
That's what you're getting from the rest of the team, and of course with Instagram DMs. But to be very frank, it's fascinating to come down to an iPhone event, to be in Steve Jobs Theater. And look, if it happens the first time, it's all right. The second time, it's all right. So many questions are asked of tech companies, but the enthusiasm and that fervor is there even in the 16th iPhone round. So it's been many years, over a decade, and people are still lining up. People are still going crazy with scenes of jubilation. Also, when we had to go to the hands-on experience area, it was like the most crowded railway station in India. It was that many people, the best influencers, the best analysts and journalists around the world, all trying to figure out what one of the world's most valuable companies has done with Apple Intelligence. And we all got some good time, a couple of hours to really shoot the content that you're seeing on India Today. Of course, India Today was the first and the only network to give you all those live updates, and we'll be continuing through the day. But I think that's what's fascinating, that, the scenes of jubilation still exist. If I, pan the camera around, there are still so many journalists and fans from around the world who are filing their stories, who are putting up posts, who are pre-booking the iPhones. And it's a real bellwether, if you ask me, because whatever happens here, this marks the start of Techtember, the tech season in the world of technology. September, the first few weeks is when it starts. And now you see all other tech companies trying to take a leaf out of this book and recreating this strategy. I think that's how influential tech companies are now. And with what's happening with artificial intelligence, it's good to see. Like we say in Hindi, der aaye durust aaye. But in this case, of course, they have come a little later than the best. But we can only hope that it's a valiant and one of the best efforts when it comes to AI. And we'll be testing it further on our shows.
Fascinating, Ayush. Thank you very much. And listening to you, I can say that there's clearly no fatigue when it comes to the Apple admirers. They continue to be there. There's already pre-booking happening. And Ayush Ailavadi getting us that first inside sneak peek. There's a reason India Today ensures on the big story, we're on the ground to get you not a second review, but right there on ground zero. Take a look now at the special report coming in. What is this Apple 16? What are the variants? What are the features? And possibly, if you are not an Apple user like I'm not, could you actually make a switch this time? Here's a report.
Apple has unveiled its iPhone 16 with new AI features.
The next generation of iPhone has been designed for Apple Intelligence from the ground up.
Apple Intelligence is the name of the company's artificial intelligence software. It'll be used to improve Siri, Apple's personal assistant, as well as enhancing camera features.
Apple Intelligence marks the start of a new era for Siri and makes it more natural, more contextually relevant, and more personal to you.
Tech companies around the world are racing to add AI to products, and phones are expected to be one of the most important battlegrounds. Apple's announcement on Monday came just hours after its Chinese rival Huawei racked up 3 million pre-orders for its trifold phone.
Instead of seeing the first couple lines of your emails, you'll see summaries that convey the most useful information. Your notifications will be summarized too, helping you quickly get the gist.
A test version of Apple Intelligence will be available in the U.S. version of the English language next month, with versions in Chinese, French, Japanese, and Spanish coming next year. But these upgrades will take time to reach consumers in China. Apple Intelligence must be approved by Beijing in order to be released in the country. Last year, iPhones accounted for more than half of Apple's $383 billion sales. Apple is betting that the AI feature will drive consumers to upgrade, as it sees a slowdown in iPhone sales.